Okay, boys, we're going to do a grid out for your lettering for your name. So we are I'm going to look at someone's name who's not too long and not too short and gives us a little bit of a challenge as to different sizes in lettering, and that is Daniel. So when I'm doing my lettering out, I always write out the name first for myself because it's really easy to forget or to miss a letter. Okay, and the reason why I chose Daniel is because each one of our letters are going to be the same height and width, except for one letter here, which is the I. The I is going to be slightly narrower than the rest of the letters. So when we're drawing out our grid, we have to keep that in mind. There's only a few letters that are different in terms of their width when you're doing lettering. And those letters are the I, which is usually maybe half or maybe a little bit, maybe 3/4 the width of a normal letter. The other letter that is a little bit different is the M, and as you can see, an M is usually one and a half times the size, and then a W is usually twice the width, although you can't really see that there. So those are the kind of three letters that we treat a little bit differently. But what we're going to do today is we're going to do Daniel, okay? Daniel's name. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line at the bottom of my page. And in order to do that, what I like to do is I like to turn the page to the, like this vertically. And I'm going to mark this about 3 centimeters from the bottom. I want to leave a little bit of space at the bottom. And I make a marking here, and then I make a marking here. And that means, let's turn it back again. And I join the lines together, okay? Now I've already done this, so I've worked out, and I'm going to give you all maybe some measurements as to how big your grid letters should be, because some of you have very long names. Like the name that's probably the hardest in the class is Matthew, and I actually did this out myself last night, and as you can see, I have to do a little bit of maths for myself and a little bit of adding and dividing to figure out how big the letters should be so they can fit on the page. But you're okay because I've already done the hard stuff for you. And the size I've kind of decided work best for most people is going to be a letter that is 4 centimeters wide and 6 centimeters high. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So working from that, where are we going to start? Well, that's a kind of a tricky-ish one, okay? And when we're looking at a name like Daniel, you're going to have, if you just thought of the width, where will the middle of this name be? And it's kind of somewhere around the end, maybe midway through the end. So we want it kind of centered, but if it's not completely dead center either, it's definitely not the end of the world. So I think that I worked out that my lettering for Daniel, so I'm going to say around 8 centimeters roughly from this side is where I'm going to start my lettering, okay, for Daniel. I've this worked out already, lads, and I'll try and give you all a little bit of an indication of what the size of your lettering should be. So now that I've figured out the bottom of my page and where I'm going to start, I'm going to line up my ruler so that it's at a right angle with my bottom line, so that I'm going to get the first little side of my corner of my grid. Okay, there's the first corner. And now I've just said, guys, that I'm going to do Daniel's name out, and what I've decided is that each letter is going to be 4 centimeters. So it's going to be 4 centimeters for D, then a half a centimeter in the middle. A, 4 again, half. N, 4 again, and a half. I is going to be a bit smaller. So for the I, I'm going to say 2 centimeters, and then a half, and then my E, 4, half, and L is 4 as well, and a half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the height of my letter first, and the height of my letter is 6. So what I always like to do is I like to measure twice, and I just making sure I have a straight line. So that's my 6 centimeters here, and I'm going to measure 6 centimeters down here, and then I'm going to join the two of those together. I am marking this a little bit more darkly than I would expect you to. Keep your grid really light, guys, because we want to be rubbing this out. Okay, so that is the bottom of my letters, and this is the top of my letters. And now I'm going to work out the little boxes that each of my letters are going to go into. So the width of my letter is 4 centimeters. So I've got a mark 4 at the bottom. And to be really sure, I like to mark 4 at the bottom and 4 at the top. Okay? And when I'm drawing a line, I always flip my page so that I'm holding the ruler with my left hand like this, horizontally, and that I'm pulling my pencil from left to right across. Now, this is going to be my D. The other thing I always do when I'm doing my lettering is I mark my letter each time as I go along, so that I don't forget a letter or miss out on a letter. You know, sometimes you might say, okay, I need 5 letters, and you mark up 5 letters, and then you realize after, oh, I needed 6, or I should have 3, or whatever that may be. So I find it really good to mark out as I'm going along each letter. So this has taken me, this extra little mark at the top takes me about 2 seconds extra, but it means that my line is always parallel and correct. Okay, guys, so I find this just such a useful thing to do. And again, what I will be doing is marking this off really lightly so that I can rub it out after. Okay. Now, another really important thing to mention when we're measuring. Okay, always remember your 0 is lining up. Okay, it's the 0 on your ruler that you measure from. Okay, and for the 0.5 millimeter, you're making sure you put your head right over. Okay, so your head should be right over. My head is right over the ruler now. I'm looking straight down on it. I'm not looking at it from the left or from the right. Okay, I'm looking at it straight down. Okay, that's really important. And each time, as you can see, I mark and then I flip over. Okay, it takes a few seconds longer, but it is just really worth it because you're making sure that each time your ruler is exactly straight and your line is exactly straight, because it just needs a couple of millimeters off, and all of your grids and all your boxes are going to be off. And this is important because I just went D-A-N, and I kind of forgot to mark on my letters, and I almost went and did another letter. So each of my letters each one is 6 cm high, and as we've gone so far, we've had 4 centimeters, 4 centimeters with our half in between each time, 4 centimeters, half in between. And now I've got D-A-N-I. Well, this is my letter, it's a little bit different. So I decided that I'm going to give 2 centimeters for the I. So when I was talking away there, I could have easily forgotten to mark that in. So when we finish that grid, we've got our D-A-N-I-E-L, our 4, 4, 4, 2, 4, 4 in width, and everything is the same height. That's really important, boys. So if I just show you now, what we're going to do next is we're going to take the name Daniel, and we're going to draw it out roughly in what we call a skeleton writing, okay? So before we before we do our block writing or our bubble writing, we're going to do a skeleton. So we're just going to basically do kind of a print lettering out. And what is very, very important, boys, is that we are filling the whole of the box, of each rectangular box, with our letter from top to bottom. So I start off with my D, and I'm going to go over it, guys, in a pen so that you can see what I'm doing. But you absolutely do not go over this in your pen. You do all of this really lightly and roughly in pencil. But I'm just doing this in a pen because Daniel's name just happens to be very lots of straight lines. So we kind of need to use rulers, and there isn't too much sketching to it. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to go over it in a pen. So what our skeleton lettering is, and as you can see again, I move this page around myself so that I can get a better angle on the letters. Okay, for me that's a better angle to be able to move the page. You can see what I'm doing. So I can hold my ruler with my left hand, hold it down with my left hand and holding it across my right. This tram line here is going to tell me where I'm going to put some of my midlines for my letters. And again, boys, this stage is a stage that you do in really lightly in pencil, drawing out your skeleton, but I'm doing it here in pen so that you can see what I'm actually doing. I'm going to do the skeleton for the eye, and actually I should have shown you this. For my A, what I did was I measured the halfway point across to figure out where the midpoint of the A is going to be. So the halfway point are 2 centimeters one side and 2 centimeters the other side. So that's what I did there. I'm going to take my eye box again, and just remember there's a gap here, and there's my eye in the middle there. And I'm just going to mark in that, you know, the halfway point there for the eye is 1 centimeter either side. So now the E is just going to go and use the outline of my box to get my E skeleton in. Remember, this is just the basic lettering, and you're going to build up, put a body on the skeleton in a few minutes now, but you're doing all of this in pencil. There we have our letter, Daniel, okay? Just worked out really lightly with our pen, okay? With our pencil. I'm doing it in pen, but you're going to do it in pencil, okay, boys? Now, I'm going to continue to draw this more heavily in pen so you can see it, but you absolutely do this in pencil. So now, after we've drawn this part of this, I have my A nice and centered in the middle. I have my I nice and centered in the middle of my boxes. We're going to put the body on. Guys, what I'm going to show you how to do now is to add the body onto the skeleton, okay? And the first thing I would say is with this particular, the letters we've chosen here, there's a lot of ability to measure with them, okay? Another thing that we're going to do is we can measure the width of these stems, okay? That's going to make it really easy to figure out how we're going to how big our lettering should be. So with this size, it's really easy because we can say 1 centimeter for the width of, say, for example, this part of the D here. Now I've drawn in already in pencil, so that's why I'm happy to go over it in a pen so that you can see it. And then I'm kind of roughly sketching out the shape of the curve. And again, boys, remember, absolutely do not go near these with pen. I want this completely done in pencil. No pen, please. Now, again, for the A, here's our skeleton of our A, and we want to add a bit of body onto that. So again, I'm just going to say 1 centimeter here. And I'm going to look at my A, and I'm going to draw. Now, I don't think I'm going to draw the A like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and make sure that line there is parallel, okay? Okay. And I did this, and the same on the other side. My A is going to be 1 centimeter wide here. And again, I'm looking carefully. Alright. And I'm going to put this just below. Okay. Hope you can see that okay. And the N, again, this part here, where my N is going to be, I'm going to mark 1 centimeter in width. And I've marked the top and bottom so that I can make sure that it's dead straight. Okay, and I'm going to do the same over here. Now, looking at that, what I may do is I'm going to put a line either side here. So I'm going to mark that there like that. And I'm going to mark that. I'm going to look at it, trying to use my eye to see does it look parallel. I'm going to mark that down there like that. Hopefully you'll be able to make this out. I'll go over this with the pen in a minute and hopefully you'll be able to make out a little bit better. And also I'm going to mark 1 here at the top and for my eye, and I'm going to mark 1 here at the bottom, okay, for my top and bottom. And you know what? My eye, top and bottom, is going to be the same as my top and bottom of my E and my L. So I'm going to mark them in 2, and I'm going to save myself a little bit of time here. My E has a top and bottom that's going to be 1 centimeter as well. And my L has a bottom here that's going to be 1 centimeter as well. And we'll see in a second how that's going to work. Just mark lightly across the way here. That's it. Okay. In the middle of my eye, this is I have a 2 centimeter wide. I'm going to mark a 1 centimeter wide stem down the middle, okay? So what I've done here is I've put my ruler down across the middle, and I've gone a half a centimeter to this side, half a centimeter to this side, so I've got 1 centimeter in the middle. Now guys, if this is a little bit technical and is blowing the head off you a little bit, right? You can always just try and sketch it in with your eye looking, and then straighten it up with your ruler at the end. The main important thing is that your letters fill each box. That's the most important thing. Now, I'm doing my E. I've got my top and my bottom, and I'm going to mark in. Okay, so that's top and bottom. And I've got my line in the middle. And see the way I have my little stem here below the line here. I'm going to do the same with my E. It's important that they're kind of the same size. So you could have a choice to have it right through the middle here, but because we've gone below with the A, we're going to make it the same with the E. Okay? And then the L is really easy because I've got my 1 centimeter on the side. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over this in a black pen so that you can actually see what it looks like without all these lines to annoy you. This is what the Daniel is going to look like once you have it all drawn in, okay? And again, I've done it out with pen and I've done it out quite heavy. But what I want yours to look like is like this one here, very light and sketched out, and with a little bit being able to see your grid lines. But that's what I want you to present to me, so that if you've any mistakes made, I'll be able to see them and we'll be able to fix them up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all a little bit of help with this because it's a little bit more technical than something I would usually teach over online teaching. So if any of you, especially the guys with the long names, I'm going to give you all some individual help on this. But I wanted to put this up so that any of you guys who are kind of think you might be able to have a go at it are able to have a go at it. And yes, one more thing actually. Sorry a second, I was going to say one more thing. And just to finish off, boys, just a few of the common mistakes I see from students. What you're aiming to do is all of your letters are going to be in uppercase. So you go from the top to the bottom of the line for every letter you're doing. So you're doing everything in capitals. I don't want you to mix up higher case and lower case because that's another level, something else you need to learn before you do that. The most important thing is that your letter completely fills the box. Okay, that's it. It's no good if you have a little bit lower on one side or the other. You've got your gap going on here. You've got your half a centimeter left between each letter, and that's how you space out your letters. Here we have again the mistake of maybe making a letter too small, putting in lowercase, or also maybe making a letter that's a lowercase letter but filling it up like it's a capital letter. Very common mistake I see boys making when they're doing something like an N or an E. If you can see that there, leaving this little gap here, little space just inside the box. Your gap is here. That's your gap. You don't leave any gap in here. So you completely fill the box each time. Okay, you completely fill the box each time. That's what you're aiming to do. And then another mistake would be not to leave any gap at all, or to use that little 1 centimeter box to do the side of your E or the side of your N. So those are some of the very common mistakes I often see. But the main thing is, boys, you have that each grid box filled with your letters, okay, from top to bottom. Good luck with this, guys.